We have a forum.
Thanks, Robbie. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the July 23rd meeting of the TAC Funding and Programming Committee. First off is the call to order and approval of the agenda. Is there anybody that has any changes to the agenda recommended? And hearing none, we'll move on to approval of the May 21st, 2026 TAC Funding and Programming meeting minutes. And we'll do that by roll call. Go ahead, Robbie.
Second. Sure, we'll need a motion and a second to approve the.
Excuse me. Yeah, do we have a motion?
OJ will,
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No.
OJ will make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Jerry.
Elaine Kutsugas will second.
Thanks, Elaine. Sorry about that. Robbie, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Dakota County OJ.
Aye.
River County Selner.
Present. Yes.
Thank you. Dakota County Chappick.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County. The participant list now is quite long. Washington County.
Lissa Leitner is here for Maddie Dahlheimer as the alternate.
And your vote on the minutes.
Yes, aye.
Thank you. Egan Mathis.
Aye. Yep.
Barry Ellis.
Aye.
Fridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Palomie. Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Engineering Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit. Genowiak. Suburban Transit Shoal.
This is Matt fighting in for Heidi Scholl and I.
Dean Spooner Walsh. Bike Pet Joshi.
Aye.
Metro District Tag.
Aye.
MnDOT State Aid Brown.
Aye.
MPCA Dickerson. MTS Peterson.
Abstain as the alternate.
Good show. That's 17 ayes and 1 abstention.
Thanks, Robbie. Next is public comment on committee business. Is there anybody from the public that would want to comment on the committee business plan for the day? Hearing none, I'll turn over the tab report. Elaine?
Oh, just a second here. I was not prepared. Yeah, the first tab did not meet in July. And so that I would probably say I have no report because I presented the June. Oh, we didn't have a meeting in. Let me get the June report here. So in June, TAB met on the 17th. Chair welcomed new TAB alternate Ryan Wilson from MnDOT and Minneapolis alternate Aisha Chuktai. The TAB Executive Committee had met prior to the TAB meeting and discussed items on the TAB agenda and the establishment of an active transportation task force. From MnDOT report, Connie Stevens reported that there were 148 fatalities statewide to date. and the same as 2025. There were 27 motorcycle fatalities compared to 13 in 2025. And there were, as of May 31st, 42 fatalities in the metro area. Let's see. For MPCA, Amanda Smith reported that they were having another busy air quality alert season. So far, mostly ozone action days, which were caused by earlier unusual heat in the area. They're keeping an eye on the Canadian wildfires as well. And at that time, that hadn't been an issue, but since then we have. There was no MAC report. Met Council, Reva Chambliss reported that the regional solicitation application process was in process with 150 applications in development. So more than that came in. And the Transportation Improvement Program is out for public review and comment. And Metro Transit's quarterly service changes had gone into effect. And the council celebrated Metro A-Line's 10-year anniversary. Suburban Transit Association, Gary Hansen reported that, again, ridership is up on all the providers. And Maple Groves Transit Express ridership had increased 25% over a year. And their microtransit was up 10%. Southwest Autonomous Vehicle Zone has been operating successfully for the past year, with riders reporting a 96% satisfaction. TAB approved a streamlined tip amendment for 4 project adjustments that were requested by MnDOT. They released the draft 2050 Transportation Policy Plan, Amendment number 3 for public comment. This was regarding updating the Bronze Line Bus Rapid Transit project and adding the J and K Line Bus Rapid Transit projects. And there was no changes added for the consideration of the scoring adjustment possibility for the excessive delay measure. And there was 2 information items, EV public charging needs analysis and the regional TDM and Minneapolis TMO project. And that was my report.
Thanks, Elaine. Sorry for the scramble. Appreciate you getting that to us, though. Next item is committee business, and the first item is action transmittal 2026 -35. It's 2026 active transportation solicitation qualifying review, and Joe Whiting and Joe Barbeau will handle a presentation for us.
Thank you, Chair, and I will kick us off since I'll be taking the first couple of slides here, then we'll be switching over to finish off the federal side. But as you mentioned, we'll be looking at 2026 35 and 36 for the qualifying review for both the active transportation solicitation and the regional solicitation. Sorry about that. Oh, look at that. Okay, wow. So a little background on the process to get here. So following applications closing on June 25th, staff has been working quite a bit to review all of the applications. We got about 170 applications between the 2 solicitations to review for basic qualifying requirement review to understand which projects may need to be considered for disqualification, which is what we are doing here. Applicants have been notified and provided with opportunities to submit missing materials. You'll see kind of in some of these we've gotten materials since posting these staff reports, and so you'll see those kind of scratched out, but we had additional materials sent before those were sent out as well to meet most of those qualifying requirements. We'll then go through recommended motions to include future deadlines for some of these 2 applications to submit needed documentation in order to be qualified prior to coming back to TAC funding program in November for project selection time. So with that said, first we will go through the active transportation solicitation qualifying review items. Oh, Robbie, are you sharing this? Wow, you're really freaking me out here. I was okay. So a big background on the active transportation solicitation. So as you're all aware, this is our first active transportation solicitation that we've done. And we did see a quite robust demand here. As you can see, the tab had about $50 million available for the 3 categories: planning, local bike, and local pedestrian facilities. We received about $143 million in requested funds from 83 applications in 41 unique agencies. So quite a robust demand here, showing quite a bit of interest for these programs here. Going to the next slide here, and then now thinking about, so of those 83, there's a handful that had questions, and of those handful that had questions, we had 3 which potentially needed to be considered for disqualification. And so you can see here, one of those, the Edina CASA 158 pen improvements, we did get that ADA plan from Edina, and so that has now been removed as a recommended motion. That project is now qualified. But the first project is in Orono. It's for Hennepin County Road 6 Trail Resurfacing Project, number 05030. The project proposed to do crack sealing and resurfacing of a county trail along that County Road 6 there. There's really 3 main qualifying issues with this project. Number 1 is a project type. So typically a mill and overlay or crack sealing project as applied here is not necessarily considered an improvement for that facility. It's a basic maintenance of that facility that improves that facility for time, and so that is not necessarily an eligible project type through this process. Additionally, the funding request was below the minimum request. So for a local bicycle facilities, that minimum request amount was $150,000. The request came in at $68,000, so about half, or a little less than half of what that minimum request amount is for this category. Then finally, because this trail does run along and within Hennepin County right-of-way, there was no letter of support from the right-of-way owner for this project application. With that said, there is a lot of people in this meeting, and I couldn't see if we do have some from Orono or not to speak a bit about their project. But if we do, I would open it up to them to talk a bit about it before opening discussion for this project.
You don't hear anybody from Orono that's willing to step forward and speak about the project? Emily, need your hand up.
Thanks, Chair. Not from Orono, but in recognition that Orono is within Hennepin County, we did communicate with the city, and we're in agreement that the project type and funding request doesn't meet the qualifying requirements here. So just wanted to share that.
Lisa?
If that is what the applicant in Hennepin County are, I do want to ask for clarification, because I in Washington County knew that the intent of this money is not for maintenance. I just tried to look through, or in prep for this, all the application and qualifying stuff. I did not see that explicitly stated anywhere. Not in the qualifying criteria. It says a permanent improvement, which to me, that does not mean maintenance. A permanent improvement could be a mill and overlay. To me, that is permanent. And then there is also a 22-page document on it's called the Grant Administration Guide that is available. And I did not see anywhere in that maintenance was listed as there's a long list of ineligible expenses. I did not see maintenance as ineligible. So I just want to be careful that we are not ruling out yes, once again, the intent is not for mill and overlay. I am not sure the grant documents made that clear. And if the applicant wants to pull and Hennepin is kind of co-signing that, I'm fine with that. But I just don't think we should be doing that unless, and once again, Met Council staff or elsewhere, you tell me if I missed this, but I did not see maintenance being ruled out explicitly in any of the actual documents that were available to applicants.
And Joe, I'm not sure if you're ready to, or if you have an ability to speak to that or not directly, but
I would defer to potentially Steve or Bethany.
And if, if that's something that we need to follow up on, then, okay, go ahead, Bethany.
I think I would also defer to Elaine, who can talk to some of the historical expectations of this program. When we reviewed this, we did not see any improvements. So I understand, Melissa, that the crack ceiling and mill and overlay is an improvement from its current conditions, but we're looking for that additional elements with consistency in the TPP. But Elaine, can you speak to any of the additional history?
I'm going off memory here because I was trying to scramble and look for this. We have in the past said entities are responsible for the ongoing maintenance of a project, and a project has to be like if it's an existing project, it would be a reconstruction. So that I'm scrambling to look for the text. I mean, that was what we had before.
And once again, I know the intent is not mill and overlay. As a committee, though, if applicants were not provided that information in a clear manner, I don't know how we can rule them out. Is my hesitation. And I know this is one project, it's for a small amount, they were comfortable, but that is like, I know there was multiple things that were not clear to applicants. And then putting weight on people like Washington County, who is knee deep and understands all of this, doesn't seem like the move we should make. But once again, it is a general question I am raising. I mean, if this ended up going forward at $68,000, like it's not a lot of money. Anyhow, I don't know if other people feel differently or not, but if we don't tell people explicitly maintenance doesn't matter, maintenance projects are not eligible, then I don't know how we can roll out a project because that's what they submitted.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate those thoughts, Alyssa. Maybe I was kind of looking myself here too when you made those comments, and qualifying requirement number 5 gets a little bit at that. The owner, operator of the facility must operate and maintain the project year-round for the useful life of the improvement. So that would be the language I would maybe lean on the most to say that kind of general maintenance of a trail or roadway facility is not eligible.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the other, I guess, Joe, if you go back to that slide, I think there's maybe 3 reasons, or at least 3 potential reasons for disqualifying the project.
Correct, Chair. So the project was one of them, and to your point, Lisa, I think we need to be more explicit for future solicitations. I think that's a good point, especially for some of these smaller communities that haven't necessarily applied for grants in the past. But the other ones were obviously the funding request, which is below the minimum request, and then missing the letter of support from Hennepin County, as this project would have been in there right away. But I will. Before we go to the recommended motions, though, I do want to talk to the Centerville one as well. This one's a little more straightforward, I think. I did see Centerville staff here, but for Centerville's project, which is a 2027 Trails reconstruction project through the community, they did provide a ADA self-evaluation, but they did not provide a complete evaluation. So part of their evaluation was missing the inventory and of the transportation system in the community, and so they recommended to disqualify based upon the ADA plan, which was not a complete self-evaluation, which was submitted. I have talked to the applicant, and he did indicate that he will commit to completing that by November, but I would open it up, Charlie, if you're there, if you want to speak for a few minutes on that potential topic.
Is there a representative from the applicant here?
Yes, thank you, Joe, for kind of highlighting some of that for us. And yeah, please forgive me. I guess I didn't realize that we needed the inventory on the ped ramps, but that should be something that we can come up with fairly quickly here. And I've already asked engineering staff to help us compile that, pull it together, and get it ASAP back to the folks there at council. So yeah, thank you for giving us that grace period, and I apologize for not having it the first time.
Is there any more comment on this this qualifying issue? I would just ask Joe, and Joe, maybe, I'm not sure, on these that you may want to allow qualifying prior to, I think November was mentioned in the memo, but I don't know if there was a hard date that was recommended in there. And I would just, maybe that's something that you would like to consider. I would, I guess I'd be comfortable with leaving the staff to set that date, but I would set a firm date with any applicant.
Yeah, Chair. We'll go to the motions next here, and you will see
Oh,
November
okay,
10th. November 10th is that date, and they
Okay,
essentially
okay.
to commit by the 11th, which would be the next fund, and then have it submitted by the 10th. So yeah, we should be covered there.
Thank you. I must have missed that in my reading. Go ahead. All right. Well, if there's no more discussion on this one, then we'll move on to the Jerry. OJ.
Mr. Chair, quick question for you. In regards to these types of funds, active transportation funds, those are state funds. And maybe help me and maybe some of the people on the committee understand what the requirements are for the ADA transition. Is that a requirement of these types of funds, or is that a federal requirement for federal funds, or is it both?
Great question.
Chair and committee members, so that was something that was identified in the qualifying criteria as a qualifying requirement by the TAB, and so it would apply for projects that applied.
So it's set by Met Council, basically, correct? Elaine?
By the TAB, but
by the TAB. Okay.
Yeah, since it is a federal requirement, TAB discussed whether to include that also as part of the active transportation projects, and that was included so that the qualifying criteria were similar.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Maybe a follow-up question. For a lot of the smaller cities, I don't know if an ADA transition plan is required for non-state aid cities. Maybe you can help me understand, is that a requirement of all cities in the state of Minnesota, or how does this all work?
Elaine, go ahead.
An ADA transition plan is required of all entities with 50 or more employees. If you have fewer than that, you have to complete a self-evaluation. So it's not a full plan, but you do have to have an evaluation of what you have and then looking at how you would move forward in improving that.
And Elaine, is that required? I'm not asking for like a legal opinion here, but is that required, regardless of whether the TAB requires it for this kind of application? Are those agencies supposed to have those plans in place anyway?
Supposed to have those in place anyway.
Okay.
And for the federal, FHWA had told us several cycles ago that we needed to have them in place, that we needed to check before a project could go into the TIP. And then TAB just decided to keep the same requirement for the active transportation projects.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll note on this topic too. I think we're learning some stuff, right? For some of these smaller communities, this information is not as likely to be completed yet, and so I think we're following this solicitation round, we're going to be looking to help with some trainings and things like that for some of the smaller communities to compete in the future.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Joe and Elaine.
All right. There's no more discussion. We'll move on to the Edina item then. Go ahead, Joe.
Chair, so I guess I'm not, so the Edina item, so they did submit their ADA transition plan, and so this one is now qualified. I don't know if we need to go through it because of that. I don't know, any help?
Go ahead, Elaine.
This one, Edina actually had responded prior to our deadline. But the email didn't come through, so that they ended up in the action transmittal. If we'd received their email before we posted, it wouldn't have even been on this action transmittal. but they
We can-
responded the Tuesday I sent the email.
So the staff recommendation is to ignore that item or that
Correct.
piece of the item. Okay. Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. For this one and a few others coming up, I would like the minutes though to reflect that Edina did meet that qualifying requirements. Just so people will look back on the action transmittal that was sent out, they can track who was qualified and who wasn't. I'm not sure many people will do that, but just for the record, I want to make sure this Edina project is shown in the minutes as being qualified.
Yeah, I give a brief overview of the Diner project. So the Diner project, they when they submitted their application, they were actually in the process of updating their ADA transition plan, and so it wasn't available on their website. But as Elaine noted, with additional correspondence, they did submit their plan that was in the process of being updated to us directly, and that is why it is qualified now.
Fantastic. Any other discussion on that? All right, let's move on to the next.
At the point, we'd be looking
Like to-
for
Oh, yeah.
motions on the recommended motions on screen. There are two separate recommended motions on screen that would need to be moved separately.
Perfect. I'll entertain that motion then, if anybody on the committee would like to make it.
Katie White, Minneapolis, recommends the first recommended motion.
Elaine Kusikos seconds.
All right, first and a second. Is there any more discussion? Steve?
Yeah, I do think with this one that we do need to provide some greater clarity in the future in the application on what's allowed and what's not allowed for kind of some of these in between type cases. I do think this one is disqualified, and Orno was in agreement on that one, but I do think it's not clear. Even some of the language that I referenced, I think you could read it either way. So I think my hope is that we fix this for next time and provide better clarity.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else? All right, Robbie, I'll let you call the roll. Thank you.
Virginia.
Aye.
Or County Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chappick.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Lightner.
Nay.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Fridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Oley.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Engineering Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit Genoviac. Suburban Transit Fighton.
Aye.
ENR Spooner Walsh. MnDOT Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
MnDOT Metro District Tag.
Aye.
MnDOT State Aid Brown.
Aye.
MPCA Dickerson. The Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Tab Coordinator Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair the motion at 19 ayes and 1 nay.
Thank you, Robbie. Next is Centerville and the disposition of Centerville. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
Mistake, Chair.
continue,
I just
Mr. Chair.
I just clicked the slides. It didn't mean to advance it quite yet. So
Okay.
yes, proceed, Chair.
Next item is Centerville. Will anybody make a motion to a conditional qualification as represented here?
This is OJ from Anoka County. I'd make the recommendation of the motion as printed.
Thanks, Jerry. Is there a second?
Thompson, a second.
Thanks, Michael. Any other discussion on this one? Seeing none, I'll ask Robbie to call the roll again.
Upper County OJ.
Aye.
Carver County Zeller.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Leitner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Perry Ellis.
Aye.
Ridley Coons Lucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit Genowiak. Suburban Transit Fighton.
Aye.
DNR Spooner Walsh. MnDOT Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
MnDOT Metro District Tag.
Aye.
MnDOT State Aid Brown.
Aye.
MTS Peterson. Deb Coordinator Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair the motion at 20 ayes.
Thank you, Robbie. And then just for the record, would say that Edina, the project, now qualifies based on correspondence received by staff prior to this meeting. Next item is transmittal 2026-36. And this is for regional solicitation qualifying review, and Joe Barbeau, I think, will lead this presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Bethany Brink,
Oh.
I'm actually going to do this one today.
Thanks,
So
Bethany.
thank you, Chair and Committee. With the regional solicitation for federal transportation funds, we have about $215 million available this cycle, and we received 92 applications worth about $574 million. And we had 37 unique agencies apply to the various federal funding categories. Next slide, Robbie. We do have quite a few qualifying issues for the regional solicitation applications, and we'll go through those each one by one, discussing the projects, their issues, and then a recommended motion based on each issue. Just a quick summary, and you can see a few of these projects have addressed their issues and have since been qualified. And we will start by discussing the federal eligibility issue. We have two primary federal transportation funding requirements, and those are that projects must be open to the public and on a functionally classified roadway, which is dependent on whether you are in the urban area or not. And with this, we identified that Ham Lake submitted two projects on East Meadow Drive and Jackson Street. Are not qualified because they are not on a minor arterial. Ham Lake responded and indicated that Meadow Drive is federally eligible because it is on a minor collector. So that is now shown on issue 2, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But the Jackson Street proposal 05336 remains on a local road and is not federally eligible. With the Minneapolis Welcome to the City TDM project 05111, they did request withdrawal once we discussed their eligibility issue. So the only motion that we have today on issue 1 is that the Ham Lake Jackson Street application be disqualified due to the project not meeting federal funding requirements. With that, I will turn it back to the chair for this issue.
Is there any discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion that's included on the slide here. Somebody like to make that motion?
Thompson will move that motion.
Thank you, Michael.
I'll second. This is Omi.
Thanks, Paul. Any discussion on this? All right, Robbie, let's call. Oh, Steve, you had your hand raised there last second.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just from the council perspective, you'll see a few of these that came through that are similar in nature, minimum, maximum awards. But I think this was the first time that we used this new Flux software, and I think overall it worked quite well. One thing for next cycle that I think we could improve upon as we further implement it is to, like in this case, Ham Lake submitted and there was a drop down list or whatever, and they weren't eligible. You wouldn't be able to submit your application or move on from that step. I think that would be. There's a few ways we could do it in the future, but I think that would be maybe the next step here to so someone doesn't fill out an entire application and then get disqualified, which we hate to do, but in this case, it's not even federally eligible. But for 2028, I think that's another goal of ours. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comment? Discussion? Okay, Robbie, go ahead, call the roll.
Can I have a clarification on the
Oh,
motion?
Lane, go ahead.
Is the motion only to disqualify the 5336? Or both Ham Lake?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Is the 5336, and Bethany, you can explain. I think the other one's coming up in the next slide, possibly.
Yes, the East Netta Drive project was moved to issue 2 for discussion.
Okay.
All right. All right, Robbie, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Anoka County, OJ.
Aye.
Carver County, Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County, Chapik.
Aye.
David County, Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County, Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County, Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County, Lander.
Aye.
Egan, Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie, Ellis.
Aye.
Ridley, Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville, Omni.
Aye.
Minneapolis, White.
Aye.
Plymouth, Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul, Weber.
Aye.
Suburban Transit, Fight.
Aye.
And Bike Ped, Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District, Tag.
Aye.
And State Aid, Brown.
Aye.
MPCA. And Met Council, MTS, Peterson.
You muted.
MTS, Peterson.
Aye. Sorry about that. Aye.
Tab Coordinator, Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair, the motion at 20 ayes.
Thank you, Robbie. And I would guess just let the minutes reflect that as presented in the transmittal letter, the Minneapolis Welcome to City Project 05111 was withdrawn prior to the meeting. Go ahead, Bethany.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Now on to issue 2. Beyond those federal requirements, TAB has restricted roadway application eligibility to those A minor or to the minor arterials, formerly known as A minors, and above in the roadway modernization, new interchanges, and congestion management strategies application categories. So as we just discussed, the Ham Lake East Netta Drive safety improvements 05168 applied in roadway modernization, but it is on a minor collector. We also have the St. Louis Park, Oxford, Louisiana area infrastructure investment project 05192 that applied in the roadway modernization application category. For that project, about half of it is on a major collector and the other half is on a minor collector. So it does not meet TAB's eligibility requirements. And so for those reasons, we have the staff recommended motion on the screen to disqualify these 2 projects. And with that, I do think we may have the applicants here, so I would like to give them an opportunity if they did make it.
Is the applicant here for either St. Louis Park or Ham Lake? Allie.
Yes, hello. I would first just like to say thank you guys for the opportunity to meet today and to review and discuss St. Louis Park's application further. And again, my name is Allie and I work for SEH, and our team assisted the city with preparing and reviewing their application. And we wanted to attend today to help provide additional context on the project and the application materials. The city is also in attendance with us and will speak in greater detail about the project needs, goals, and their priorities, and why we thought the project aligned well with the roadway modernization category. For some quick background, we do acknowledge that Met Council staff reached out regarding the eligibility concern in relation to the functional classification of the project. And we just wanted to touch on that briefly. So the city and our consultant team did complete a thorough eligibility review and selected the roadway modernization category in good faith based on our understanding of the regional solicitation guidance and specifically the category specific roadway modernization document. We did not see the roadway functional class requirement specifically identified within that sub roadway modernization category document, and we did heavily rely upon that document in developing the application. We do want to acknowledge that upon further review, when Met Council staff reached out last week, that we did find mention of this qualification criteria within other regional solicitation documentation. But just given the sheer volume of the guidance documents and some differing thoughts and interpretations of the requirements. And then it sounds like Steve did mention this, but unfortunately, the lack of an automated eligibility flag within Flux. Our team does have experience with other and similar portals that will flag or gray out an application if an ineligible item is selected. And so with that, we just do believe it was a reasonable misunderstanding rather than an attempt to pursue an ineligible project. We also wanted to mention that the proposed roundabout improvements at Louisiana Avenue and Oxford Street is located along Louisiana Avenue, which actually is classified as an arterial roadway. And at least this segment of the project, we do believe appears to meet the roadway classification requirements. And with that, that's just some additional context in relation to the email response we provided to Met Council last week. And I will turn it over to the city to help discuss the project and why we believe it at least merits some consideration or hopefully the option for some possible revisions. So with that, I think Deb is on the call and can speak more to that.
I just turned off my mic. So good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Deb Heiser. I'm the engineering director for the city of St. Louis Park. This project is located at Louisiana in Oxford in the south area of town. Methodist Hospital's to the south. Minnehaha Creek runs through here. We have our light rail station, which is going to be operational next year. We're really excited about that. We also have done extensive community engagement, and we have a station area plan that we want to set ourselves up for redevelopment. The roads were built in 1973. They need to be modernized. We have safety concerns. We do not have sidewalk to connect to that station. We want to put in a roundabout at this intersection on the arterial intersection. We have every drop of water that comes down from the sky goes directly into Minnehaha Creek untreated. And so you look at this area set up for redevelopment, set up to get density for transit-oriented development. We want to set ourselves up for success so that we can support the regional transportation system. The project includes sidewalks. This project includes underground treatment of stormwater. First and foremost, it's an industrial area. It's poised for redevelopment. We will remove downstream pollution. We're working with Minnehaha Creek on developing what that looks like. And all of this is going to happen underneath the roadways, that major and that minor collector on either side of Louisiana's intersection. We will have big pipes put in, water quality treatment, set ourselves up for flood storage. About 30% of the properties out there are actually in the floodplain. And how do we mitigate for that? In 2014, when we had record levels on the creek, we had to close Louisiana Avenue. If you can imagine closing down that road that is next to the hospital, not having people be able to get to the hospital from that perspective. So we see this as a resiliency project. We see this as a redevelopment supporting transit. You look at the success we had at Wooddale. We've installed over 1,000 units near that Wooddale station, and we have more coming. So if we can set ourselves up with a backbone for regional stormwater treatment, regional flood storage, create a safer intersection, create that last mile connection for the light rail, that's what this project's about. So I won't bore you too much, but when you look at the costs of the stormwater resiliency, it's about $3 million. The roundabout itself is about $2 to $3 million. I would respectfully ask that instead of disqualifying us based on the functional classification of the major and minor, could we, is there another category that we could compete under, or could we modify our application to focus on that arterial intersection and really, then work through it that way? So. Appreciate your thoughts, and I appreciate the time. I know you've got a lot of stuff on your agenda this afternoon, so.
Thanks, Deb. With that, is there any discussion? Thoughts on either of these projects? Emily.
Thank you, Chair. I think that was really helpful to hear Deb and Allie talk about some of the additional background for their project. What stood out to me was that the Louisiana intersection still seems to be eligible. And so I think that, rather than disqualifying the project, which seems to have a lot of benefits for the city and the region, the idea of maybe updating the project limits within the category, would that be the most straightforward way to take this project, from off the disqualified project list? Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
I was going to ask the same question. I just don't know if that's within our ability. I am comfortable with that. And I think this also goes into the category of we really need to figure out in the next 2-year cycle here how to make sure that these sorts of things are incredibly clear to folks. The fact that a consultant who was probably submitted a lot of these didn't catch this is concerning. It's one thing for a city like, Orono or a smaller entity, but that is pretty concerning that this sort of eligibility requirement wasn't abundantly clear to an applicant. But yeah, it has to be an A minor.
Doesn't have to be an A minor for roadway categories. I mean, that's
correct, Lyndon. But when
it's been that way forever.
I know, but only people who are knee deep in this and have been knee deep in this business forever know that. And if that's not super clear in our application materials, I just think it's another thing we need to make sure in the 2 years from now that that's super clear to folks. But yeah, is it within our ability to have them modified down to focus on the Louisiana intersection?
It says it on the qualified criteria, page 2, roadway projects, item 16. It's pretty clear.
I would just like to speak to that just a little bit and just mention that within the subcategory roadway modernization package that you can download as a separate document, it is not explicitly stated within that document itself. I do realize that the document you're talking about, it is referenced there, but in the roadway modernization category subsection where you can download and look at that and it talks about eligible projects, it is not explicitly stated within that document.
Steve, you raised your hand.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Maybe I appreciate the applicant. I don't know if Ham Lake's here too, but Lee St. Louis Park talking a little bit more about this one. Just maybe some context on the background. We do have kind of 3 roadway categories that have different functional classification eligibility. Those are the 2 safety categories, proactive and reactive, and the bridges. And then these 3 that you see on the screen in the left column: roadway modernization, interchanges, and congestion management. are focused on a more limited subset of roadway types. And so I can see how that would be confusing to people as you go through it. We did ask that of the roadway special issue working group. If we should broaden the eligibility, I think Lyndon was on that one here too, and they did want to continue to focus that those limited dollars on the minor arterial and non-freeway principal arterial system. So I'm not sure, and I guess your question earlier was, could you alter the application? I think that's possible. We try not to do that after the fact, just because it gives people maybe an unfair advantage to change the termini or to kind of redo their responses, given that they'd have more time. It's possible. I mean, if this committee wants to do it that way, you could also qualify it because it is federally eligible. You could just say, okay, we had some confusion here. We're going to let, this cycle, we're going to let this, I guess in this case, 2 projects go through and clarify better for next time. I mean, that would be another option. I don't know what others think, but I think, or you could disqualify, and that's the staff recommendation here. So I think there's maybe kind of three approaches, and might be worth kind of talking through a little bit from the others on the committee besides just me on what the preference is there. So thanks.
Steve, can I follow up with, you were staff. There was 2 documents that were talked about there. One not explicitly referencing, the roadway classification that would have precluded this project from being applied for, and one that did.
Yes.
Can you, for those that did not apply this cycle, or maybe didn't, haven't seen those documents for a while since, or at all, can you outline what those documents are and when prospective applicants would have received those?
Yeah, I'll maybe lean on Bethany to add to what I'm going to say here, but I believe when you're going through the qualifications and checking those boxes, that's where you would come across. I think we have it as number 16, right, Bethany? Take it from here. Better an idea.
Thank you, Steve and Chair. So within the qualifying requirements document, it is number 16 that does say roadway modernization must be on a minor arterial or above. Additionally, when you are going through the application, that question does say the roadway project is identified on a principal arterial or minor arterial as shown on the functional classification map. Bridge connections, proactive safety, and reactive safety projects have broader eligibility, and you must select yes to move forward. I do know that we did have to lift some of those flags for bug issues with influx, but the applicants do have to acknowledge that in their application as they are submitting it.
Okay. Was there also a document, Bethany, that was it a guide or something that did not have that explicitly stated in it? The second document.
Chair, we have 3 primary documents that are not attached to the actual application, but within our training and all of our materials, we do reference that you should read the introduction, the qualifying requirements, and the project information forms. There are a lot of opportunities to streamline this, but within the trainings that we have provided, we do refer those to applicants.
Okay. I've taken some time. Others, comments, discussion? Lisa.
So this would be eligible for one of the safety categories. I mean, I don't know how well it would or wouldn't score, and this would then require a completely different application, but I'm assuming it's off the table to probably suggest moving it to an application category that's that it would be eligible for.
Bethany.
Yeah, Chair and Lisa, within the historical precedence of the solicitation, we have allowed projects to change their category. The issue with allowing these 2 projects to move to different categories is they would have to submit new materials, and respond to new questions or receive zeros on those scores. And for that reason, they wouldn't be competitive. And so it may not benefit the applicant either way.
All right. Allie.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to provide just one more comment about the document that's specific to the roadway modernization category. It is a document. It's when you download it, it says RS_roadways_roadway modernization_final, and it is that prioritizing criteria and measures document that's specific to the roadway modernization category. And that I just wanted to clarify that that's the document we were talking about, where it doesn't explicitly mention that under the examples of eligible projects. Now, I do want to mention that to Bethany's statement, it does mention to that the list is not exhaustive and to refer to the project eligibility guidance. So it does mention that. However, just wanted to mention that it is not explicitly mentioned within this sub document that is an eligible criteria, and therefore, didn't stand out to our team explicitly while reviewing that document. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I think, Steve, you mentioned a possible optional motion, and is it pretty clear? I mean, there's two segments of roadway here that differ in classification. So is that kind of, would shortening the project that's applied for is that what you're envisioning with that alternate motion?
I think, well, that is a possibility to shorten it and give the applicant would need some time to adjust their responses. I think if people, my personal preference is that you would, if you do want this in the Ham Lake application to move forward, to let them continue as is. It is federally eligible. I just think it's gonna take some time, and we're starting to get into the scoring with the scoring committees. So Beth, I don't know, from a timing perspective, I'd maybe ask you to. So the chair's request was, or what he was trying to think through, is it possible to let them alter their answers and reduce their project, or is it kind of like we're on to scoring now, we need to make a decision on let this go through or not?
Thank you, Chair and Steve. Based on our schedule, we would not have time to allow them to alter their application. And the historical precedence is to not allow for new information to be submitted. If you missed something that you thought you attached or included, that is a correction. This would be a substantial alteration of their proposed projects. And for that reason, staff recommended the disqualification.
Thank you. Chelsea.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Chelsea Moore-Ritchie with SEH. I just want to ask a question because, as Deb mentioned, a large portion of this project, the construction is occurring on that major collector and minor arterial, but it is in support of a wastewater and water treatment for Louisiana Avenue, which is a minor arterial. So at what point can you consider the work that's being completed on maybe these side streets in support of the minor arterial roadway and therefore part of the minor arterial roadway project?
I guess I can let Steve or Bethany answer that, but basically it's got to be contained within that corridor of that classification, is my understanding.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and that may be a better question for state aid if Colleen is still on the line, that there's some leeway to go off the primary roadway for connection of projects, maybe intersection projects like this is partially too. I just don't know what that threshold is. Colleen would probably have to weigh in from a state aid perspective.
Yeah, we do consider any touchdown work or work that's necessary to complete the main project as eligible for the federal funding. So we do go off of the main roadway for eligibility.
Emily.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question here. Are we planning to vote on both projects as part of one motion? Are we hoping for the same results for both? Because at least for our discussion right now, I'm kind of seeing these as separate items, especially I'm looking at the data atlas and what we've been talking about, that Louisiana would meet the requirements for roadway modernization if we focus in on that intersection. I don't know if there's a similar circumstance or not for the first project, or if we should take a look at that as well.
Thank you. I guess I'll speak for staff. My preference would be to take the individual motions. So with that, if there's no more discussion on the Ham Lake item, if somebody would like to make that motion on the East Netta Drive Safety Improvements Project, I'd welcome that. Anthony.
I'll make a motion to disqualify the applicant for not meeting the requirements.
And that's related to the East Netta Drive Safety Improvement Project?
This is for the Louisiana area infrastructure one.
Okay. Kind of jumping ahead. Is there a second?
Second. Russ.
Motion a second. Is there any more discussion? And Robbie, if you're here, I ask you to call the roll then on the St. Louis Park disqualification for that project.
Thank you, Chair. Anoka County OJ.
Aye.
Carver County Selner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
Utica County Buell.
Sorry, just to clarify, this is to disqualify the project?
Correct.
Nay.
Recorded. Ramsey County Leesman.
Nay.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Leitner.
Nay.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Ridley Kozlucher.
I'm going to vote nay.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit. Suburban Transit Fight.
Aye.
DNR Spooner Walsh. PennDOT Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
PennDOT Metro District Tag.
Aye.
PennDOT State Aid Brown.
Nay.
MPCA. Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Tab Coordinator Kutsukos.
Aye.
Lane, could you say that again? I didn't quite hear it.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Chair, the motion at 15 ayes and 5 nays.
Thank you, Robbie. Do I have would anybody like to provide a motion on the Ham Lake East Netta Drive Safety Improvement Project?
This is Selner. I make a motion to disapprove that one for not meeting the roadway classification requirements.
Yes.
Thompson will second.
Thank you. Is there more discussion on this one?
Yes, just one thing. I'll
Steve.
let Mr. Peterson go.
Sorry.
Yeah, this just for the future, if Ham Lake does apply again, one other thing that they were missing was their ADA self-evaluation. That was noted in the action transmittal. So encourage Ham Lake to apply again next cycle, but now they've got some time to get to their self-evaluation done and completed so they can get over that hurdle for next time too. So thanks.
Thank you. And Anthony.
Yeah, just one thing for the group is that if we allow a change to the classification for even an exception, there could have been a lot of other applicants throughout the entire area that could have applied. So that's all.
Thank you. Other comments, questions, discussion? If none, we've got a motion and a second. Robbie, can you call the roll, please?
Chair, Hennepin County OJ.
Aye.
Harper County Selner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Leitner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Fridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Suburban Transit Fighton.
Aye.
Midot Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tag.
Aye.
And State Aid Brown.
Aye.
Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Tab Coordinator Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair the motion at 20 ayes.
Thank you. Thanks, Robbie. Bethany, will you be continuing?
I will. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Robbie, can you please go back to issue number 3? We do have 3 projects here for issue number 3 where TAB has established a minimum funding request threshold for each application category. For the regional bike facilities, that threshold is $1 million, and for the proactive safety category, that is $2 million. We have 3 projects that don't quite meet those minimum thresholds, and the first is the Carver County Lake Minnetonka Trail Project 05390. They requested $734,000. We have the Anoka County Lake Drive and Elm Street Roundabout Project 05242, and they requested $1.5 million. And then the Richfield 76th Street and Newton Avenue intersections project 05210, they requested $1.7 million. And so while they are below that minimum, historically, this funding and programming committee has allowed applications to compete. So with that, the staff has provided their recommendation to disqualify these because they are below TAB's adopted minimum funding request threshold. And I do believe all 3 applicants are here.
Thanks, Bethany. Can we start with Carver County?
Yep. Thanks for the opportunity to present, Chair and committee members. We are below the minimum. Per our previous discussion in the last round, this should be disqualified as well, and we'll reapply next year, the next opportunity.
Thank you, Anthony. Is there anybody to speak to the Anoka County project?
Chair, this is Jerry Oj, Anoka County.
Okay.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Selner. We should QA/QC'd our application a little bit better, meeting the minimum qualifications. So therefore, I think we're out as well.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jerry. And Richfield.
Thank you, Chair. Matt Hardiger, Transportation Engineer for Richfield. We also we did not meet the qualifying criteria. We would be okay with the committee choosing to qualify it still, but we will respect whatever the committee chooses to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa.
I just want to know, I mean, it says historically that funding and programming has allowed these to pass through. I'm also wondering why we actually even have TAB put a minimum on here now that this has come up. With federal money in particular, we know that entities aren't only going to apply when they think it's worth it to deal with federal requirements for a certain amount of money. I have been on TAC longer than I've ever participated in FNP, so I don't know if somebody can provide the context about that note, but I would hate to say you three are out of here if historically we collectively have allowed projects to still compete if they're under the minimum.
Lisa, I'm going to jump in, and I think Steve or staff can certainly speak to this a little bit more clearly, but I believe that with the new kind of overlap in categories, particularly like with ATP and regional trail projects, so that kind of the ranges are stacked, so that that you're directed at one or the other. I also believe with like HSIP and the safety category. Not sure about the other categories, but I'll let staff speak to that and kind of affirm my sense of that.
Yeah. Oh, Bethany.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. The maximum award is almost more important if you're way over the maximum than the minimum. I would say the reason we put a minimum is because there is an amount out there where it's not worth it to federalize it, send it through state aid, and go through the process. Not sure what that magic number is, but we didn't want a bunch of, say, $50,000 or $100,000 projects being federalized and having to go through the state aid process. That was too onerous. So that's in part why we made minimums across the board. People do get tripped up sometimes when we change them. I'd say every cycle we change it, which in this case we've got some new minimums that does usually trip at least one applicant up. And usually they're pretty close to what that minimum was in the past, and we've let it go through. In this case, at least the HSIP ones, there is kind of another avenue for them to, they can apply through HSIP, and I think both Richfield and Anoka County are going to apply for the HSIP. Well, it's closed now, but are going to apply for HSIP. You can apply for both, and we say that in the rules too, so I'm throwing a couple wrinkles out there. That's maybe some of the history on why it, and maybe Elaine or others want to add on to that. Thanks.
Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, for my perspective here, our minimum that we're comfortable with for federalizing a project is about $500,000. And but that being said, I do want to respect the fairness across all boards. So if this committee in general would like to have another application as per Richfield's, we're open to it. So, but I do want to be fair across the board. Over.
Thank you. Elaine?
Getting on to what Steve had said, specifically with the HSIP in the past, they could apply for both HSIP, and then we had a spot mobility category in the past. For this solicitation, we added the new safety categories. So TAB specifically worked with the HSIP amounts for those so HSIP was anything below 2 million, and the solicitation would be over 2 million. And then also to address where we've had some exceptions in the past where TAB or funding and programming allowed some projects to go under. Both the two I could think of in the past, they were just under the minimums. One had been an application had applied in a roadway modernization category and then reapplied. And in web grants, you were just able to move the previous online software, move an application from the previous one into it and copy it over. And they did not realize that the minimum had gone up a little bit, so that's why they were below it. And that was the reason they let that one go through. And I think another one was like within 50,000 or something, so it was a smaller amount. Again, I think it was a transit project that I think had applied a couple years before that and had not upped their budget to meet the minimum.
Thank you, Elaine. Is that helpful, Lisa?
That is, but I'll make the motion to say that these projects should be qualified, not disqualified, to go with the historic precedents here.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Thompson will second that. I know it might give Colleen Brown some extra work, but I mean, if they're doing more projects at a lower cost for the region, I think this is different from the last item we addressed. So I don't see how there would be any downside to this to the region other than maybe a little bit more workload for a few folks.
All right. Is there any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve these three and disregard the qualification that of the minimum amounts, minimum funding thresholds. Robbie, would you like to call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair. Anoka County OJ.
Aye.
County Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leisman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Leitner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Nay.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Nay.
Ridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Nay.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit. Suburban Transit Fighting.
Aye.
Dinar Spooner Walsh. And Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tag.
Okay.
And State Aid Brown.
Aye.
And PCA. And Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Tab Coordinator Kunsukos.
Aye.
Sorry, Elaine, I couldn't hear that again.
Aye.
But that is an aye. Chair, the motion at 16 ayes and 4 nays.
Thank you. Motion approved. So we'll go ahead and maintain the inclusion of those beyond the minimum threshold. Bethany, will you be continuing?
I will. You're stuck with me for a little bit longer, Chair.
Thank you.
So we are on to issue number 4. Similar to issue number 3, TAB has established those maximum funding request thresholds. For travel demand management, the maximum award is $750,000. We do have this Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota project that submitted a request of $800,000. When we reached out to them, they did propose a project change. However, there is no precedent for allowing such an action, and staff does not support this. And so for that reason, the recommended motion is to qualify them pending submittal of documentation that they will increase their local match to maintain the project that was submitted. So they would increase their local match by $500,000 and reduce the federal funding request by $50,000 to meet that maximum federal funding request. And I am not sure if this applicant is here.
We are available, Chair and members, to answer questions, or I can speak to it briefly.
Michael, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. These the process was a little bit we got a little bit confused on some of the logistics of the project, and I think what we ran into is actually not more of the data entry got us. We are fully supportive of what staff is saying. That this was our intent all along. We've been working with staff to perfect any errors. So we do appreciate the recommendation that we be qualified, and we'll certainly have the updated documentation to you by then. It's I think we're learning this new flux system a little bit as well, and we're a small nonprofit that does big things throughout the metro area, but we don't necessarily have consultants with the background working on this. So a special thank you to the teammates that helped us work through this process. We are grateful for the recommendation that we be qualified pending the submittal. We will certainly do that, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Michael. Excellent. Appreciate that. Any discussion by the group on this one? All right, is there a motion to support either the recommended motion or another motion? Somebody would like to make?
Mr. Chair, so move the recommended motion. Mathis.
Thanks, Russ. Is there a second?
Second, Chapik.
Thank you. Any discussion? Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just want to confirm with the applicant in this case, because we're asking them to reduce their federal funding amount and then essentially increase their local. Just want to make sure that they're on board with that, and maybe ask. Maybe that's the first question, and then we'll probably need some additional documentation if that's the case.
Thank you, members. To answer that question, yes, we are absolutely on board with it. We have the resources in place, and we will submit the documentation.
Good, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Steve. Other questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask that the roll is called in the motion.
Aye.
Kevin Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Leitner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Thank you. Fridley Kozlusher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Metro Transit. Suburban Transit Fighting.
Aye.
And Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tech.
Aye.
And State Aid Brown.
Aye.
Council MTS Peterson. Peterson.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Tab Coordinator Kutsugos.
Aye.
Chair the motion at 20 ayes.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Next item, Bethany.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Our next issue is a local match commitment. So with qualifying requirement number 9, we do say any project that requires a financial contribution from an agency other than the applicant must have a letter indicating such. We found 3 projects. The Washington County project was qualified in between the posting and now. So the minutes should indicate that the Trunk Highway 61 corridor 05071 is qualified. We also have the Carver County project that was just qualified in a previous issue. Their application cites county and state funds. And then the final project without a local match commitment is the Hennepin County CASA 9 reconstruction 04866. The application states there is a cost participation expectation from Robbinsdale, but Robbinsdale did not provide a letter indicating they will participate in the cost of the project. Hennepin County did provide their cost participation and maintenance policy. They also proposed to shorten the project to exclude the Robbinsdale segment, but I do know that Hennepin County and Carver County are here if they would like to address the committee.
Thank you, Bethany. Just a quick question. I think in the recommended motion, there's a date of August 11th, 2026. Can you speak to that date and why that was set?
Yes.
Or recommended to be set?
Yes. So staff have recommended that the applications be qualified pending submittal of this documentation. And we do believe that if they had the documentation, that they likely just missed attaching it. And so they should be able to provide it by this August 11th date.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see who we have first on. Lyndon.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think I sent an email about ours. We do not intend to use state funds. That must have been a mistake in our app. We are planning on using, if we are successful, the new TAA money, but I think that's considered local funds and not state. So I don't think we need a letter of support from the state.
All right. Bethany, go ahead. I'll let you jump in.
Thank you. Thank you, Lyndon. We were unsure if your email covered both projects that we indicated. I do believe with your verbal announcement and that email, we could deem your application qualified with that clarity. So I would ask the chair how you would like to handle that, if you'd like to include it in the motion or just note that in the minutes that this project is qualified.
I guess what I would just say is we'll allow the motion to be made by a committee member, and if they choose to exclude Carver County based on the commitment here today and memorialize that, Carver County would work with staff to provide documentation, any subsequent documentation that's needed to clarify and qualify their project, that just be memorialized at the end. And let's see, Emily keeps flashing up, so. But
thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity to respond to the local match commitment for our County Road 9 42nd Avenue reconstruction project. This project is in the cities of Crystal and Robbinsdale. And so as we included in some of our supporting materials, and Bethany alluded to in the emails, so we have been in touch with both cities since May of 2025 when we were working to add this project to our CIP. And then earlier this year, as we were starting to think through our regional solicitation, candidates reached out to both cities to make sure there were no major concerns moving forward with this application. Since that time, the county is reviewing our cost participation policy. And so I think some of those conversations have intensified, and we've learned of a new position when we reached out for a letter of support from the city of Robbinsdale. And so we were unsuccessful in getting that letter of support from the city, but we did receive a letter of support from the city of Crystal. So our application included our written notice to the city. And then we also included the county's cost participation and maintenance policy. That's a board adopted policy, and county staff view that as sufficient in assigning costs to our city partners for the project, as well as overall maintenance and those responsibilities to the city. So we had originally asked Met Council staff if that document would be sufficient in lieu of the written commitment from the city of Robbinsdale. And then Bethany, you mentioned that kind of as another option, the county proposed to amend our project limits. And so if that were to be supported, I just want to provide a little bit more detail on that. That would be about 4 or 5 blocks. And so that would be, rather than the eastern limit being Welcome, it would be Adair, and that would put the project entirely within the city of Crystal. One of the key points there that I want to highlight is that distance that we'd remove from the project potentially would be 0.27 miles. And that's within the what we've understand to be the allowable threshold of 0.3 miles that could be accomplished without a TIP amendment. So we'd just be working through that on the front end. So happy to answer any questions, but that's a little bit more background about this project.
And I'll just ask Bethany, you know, is there anything that you want to add to that before we move on for discussion?
Thank you, Chair. I would also like to note that this project is going to come up for a similar reason on a future issue on the year-round maintenance. So this is not the only conversation we're going to have about this project. And the committee did just vote to not allow St. Louis Park to change their extents. And so staff encourage consistency. However, we are recommending qualifying pending submittal of that documentation.
Okay. And Emily, I'm just going to make a little light here and just say, like, you weren't able to get Crystal to pay for Robbinsdale's portion, I'm guessing, right?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead.
I know Washington County is, we made our commitment here, but I just want to note, this is another place that there needs to be updates for next round. This statement here doesn't say what that letter has to say. Our project had a letter from Forest Lake. To us, this reads, you need a letter of support from the city. That it doesn't say what the letter has to say. So if we need an explicit statement in letters of support about financial commitment, that is something different than just like, you need a letter of support. So we had a letter of support. We had to go back and get another one. In our case, our city was okay with that. I also wanted to note in our investigation of this, though, if you go through all these applications and look at what people write for match, some say local costs, some say county costs, some say MnDOT and Forest Lake. The level of specificity in this ranges widely. And if Hennepin County would have just said their like county funds, this project would move through. And so in knowing how much like Robbinsdale entire council will likely change over between now and when they actually need the financial responsibility for this project. And so I have no problem, you know, they're going to have to cancel it themselves if they cannot get Robbinsdale on board as it goes through. And we know that causes other issues within this process. But I am fine moving Hennepin counties through and just telling them to delete Robbinsdale off that list and don't change the project scope. Because there's other projects in here that don't list the cities when we know the cities will have cost participation.
Thank you. Comments related to that or any discussion? Elaine, go ahead.
Applicant submits their application and then they put only there that they will be supplying the local match. That is fine. They are on the hook for all that local match. They can at any time get other local match added to the project. If they don't, they are still providing that local match. However, if they say someone else is providing part of the match, that is one of the requirements, is that you can't just say someone else is doing it and then they don't agree to it. We've had some instances where cities said they'll provide the match and we contact them and they said, no, we didn't promise that. So that's why we say if you're saying someone else is providing it, we need that confirmation. Otherwise, you could leave it off and say, we're providing it, and then you would be, but you could always add in later.
Thank you. Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Somewhat to Alyssa's point, I'm assuming CASA 9 needs don't stop at the Robbinsdale boundary. Emily, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so would the county just stop the project at the county border, or they would just continue it into Robbinsdale and deal with the funding?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I'm prepared to be able to answer that today.
Okay, that's honest. Thanks.
Yeah.
Other questions, discussion? Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand and absorb what Emily said here, that as the applicant. So your reason for putting in the two cities as contributing to this project is because you follow your cost participation policy. So it's not like they're bringing additional money to the table or some competitive source. It's just when this project gets fully designed, they'll need to contribute just like any other county project. Am I right in understanding that? And then Melissa kind of said, well, there's really any project's going to have costs that are going to go up or down, and but it's not like some other source of money that you're putting in there for Robbinsdale beyond like your local cost participation policy.
That's correct. This would be standard county procedure, and we'd work through this as the project develops.
So maybe I'm changing my tune a little bit then on this one, at least, that if they were to amend it and either take out Robbinsdale, I think was one of the options that someone said, for now, knowing that that's probably going to come back in. That would seem like a viable solution here, but it's up to the rest of the committee too.
Emily, you were going to respond to that.
Yes, and just to clarify, Steve, if that were to be allowed, what would be your timeline for the revisions? Would that be August 11th as well?
Maybe Bethany wants to answer that.
Yeah, Bethany, why don't you answer that from a staff perspective? Yeah.
So I'm going to start by saying there's no historical precedence for changing the scope of the project. That said, all of our scoring committees kick off next week, and so effectively you would need to have the change to us tomorrow for us to be able to begin scoring committees. So it would be very challenging for us to get you the materials back to us. I think we could work with you if that's what this committee would like to do. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, if I can just jump in quick. I think what I was proposing, not to change the project limits and extent, was to just clarify in who's financially contributing, that just to put county, and that would be, then they would move through the process. Melissa, is that what you're thinking?
That's what I was trying to clarify. Chair and committee, that's what I was trying to clarify. That's if Hennepin County is comfortable. I will say we are inconsistent because we have different people do ours. Some of ours say city contribution, some of ours do not. And ultimately, we are not building these unless there is that city contribution. And that was mostly a consistency error from different applicants, people on my team who applied.
Right, and I guess it's a lesson maybe to applicants too, and maybe in the application process itself. Does the tab really care how you slice and dice the funding? If I've got state aid funding, or if I've got, whatever funding contributing to this project, right? I mean, if I'm responsible for the match as an applicant, it just makes sense to be responsible for the match somehow, right? Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So question for the county. So sorry, I missed part of the conversation, but if the local city, Robbinsdale, doesn't come forward with the match or the cost participation policy, are you still going to do the project? That's the question that I have. So if they say they're not going to pay anything, is Hennepin County going to do the project? If they're not, then it should just be disqualified.
Yes, that's a great question, Michael. I don't think I'm prepared to be able to give that answer. I'd definitely have to discuss with others at the county if we would amend the project limits or continue as is. That would have to be a separate discussion.
And okay. Emily, would it be something where, from a practical standpoint, you proceed should the committee, recommend that, you're eligible, that you proceed until at such a point you find that you may not and you withdraw your application? Is that kind of how you might proceed?
Yeah, if the changes that Steve proposed, if I'm understanding this correctly, are just, changing the match, that's something I'd have to take back and talk with others at the county. If we would still be able to move forward and have the August 11th date, that would be much preferred, kind of assuming we can get the documentation needed to satisfy that requirement. I don't know if that's actually amending something in flux or if you're looking for something just written separately. But yes, that would be preferred, to keep this qualified moving forward, and we'll discuss, with others. I'll discuss with others at the county to meet the requirement.
And maybe I'll go with Elaine first.
Just get some historical. This has been added as a requirement because we have had applicants even say that they were going to provide all the funding, and when a partner did not provide the local match, they were withdrawing, which then affects our program of projects. So that's why it's included.
All right. And then Bethany, I'm not sure if you had something to add there or not.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to note, we are trying not to make any more changes in flux. So anything that you would need to send us, Emily, we would take via email and then modify your application attachments.
Thank you.
Alyssa.
I just want to note that if we get a letter from a city council today, we got one from Forest Lake, that city could become incredibly squirrely within the time frame that we actually need their financial commitment. So to Elaine's point, this can change as soon as the city council changes. This can change as soon as one project element slightly changes. And so getting these financial commitments from cities means almost nothing, quite frankly, to us from a project development standpoint. We never go back and say, hey, you signed this 4 years ago, because their council could be totally different. Their financial state could be totally different. And so while I understand why this is a requirement, it's from a pure project development standpoint, where the rubber meets the road is when you actually execute these agreements with the cities. And I would assume Hennepin County would, in that, then shorten the project, have to go through a scope change project, et cetera, et cetera. But I will make a motion to, on the Hennepin County one, that they remain eligible if they are willing to modify the local match sources to state county funds only.
This is Leesman, Ramsey County. I'd second that motion.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Liz, I won't take offense to your lack of faith in city commitments, but is there any more discussion?
Could I just clarify? So is the motion to essentially we can continue to be on the qualified list pending that change, and then because I'll have to run all of this by others at the county before committing to anything. So I don't want to make that commitment today before, having the chance to discuss with others.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in maybe it's a week's time frame to make sure that whoever's scoring this knows that they can score it and have that information. I'm comfortable, but with whatever date staff, that's what I intended to make the motion is with Hennepin County. Obviously, if you email tomorrow and say, I want to pull my application, go forth.
Okay, thank you.
And Bethany, maybe you want to speak to that kind of really tight time frame, because I know we reviewed the ATP qualifications earlier, and so there was a little bit more time provided, I guess, to come up with some supporting documentation on those couple of those applications. So maybe you want to kind of get at, I get understanding that we're scoring one more application, but I don't know that if if we're measuring that on the burden itself of that application or not. So.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We do have a great group of volunteer scorers who will begin their scoring kickoff next week. Given the number of projects that we have given a grace period to, I do believe our plan would be to have those scored. And then if applicants do not meet the deadlines established in the committee today, then we would just simply not show them as qualified projects with a score when we get to those funding scenarios. So a little bit of extra work for our scoring volunteers, but probably not a significant lift. And we hope that all of our applicants can get their commitments by those deadlines.
Okay. And so the motion, the second, relates to Hennepin County project, Casan 9 reconstruction. Is there any further discussion? If no additional discussion, Robbie, will you call the roll, please?
Sure. Brooklyn County Oja.
Aye.
Upper County Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
Aye.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Lightner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Alice.
Aye.
Ridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Suburban Transit Fight.
Aye.
And Bike Bed Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tag.
Aye.
State Aid Brown.
Aye.
Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Coordinator Kutsugos.
Aye.
Chair the motion at 20 ayes.
Thank you, Robbie. And then just one, I believe we'd want to additionally memorialize. My understanding is the other two projects listed on this slide, Trunk Highway 61 corridor, Washington County, and Carver County Lake Minnetonka Trail. The applications are sufficient with pending some maybe additional documentation on Carver County's part. Bethany, go ahead.
Correct, Chair. We do have an email from Lyndon already about a different project, and so we will just follow up with him on that same email to clarify 05390 was intended as part of his, so staff would deem that application qualified.
Perfect, and I'll request that the minutes reflect that. Thank you. Next slide.
Okay, issue 6, we have the year-round maintenance commitment. In the qualifying requirement number 6 does require the owner and operator of the facility to maintain it for year-round use, which includes winter maintenance as per the link. And there were a variety of ways applicants could meet this requirement. And the only application to not be able to provide this documentation is, again, the County Road 9 reconstruction project and that Robbinsdale segment.
Thank you, Bethany. Emily, I'm presuming that you're representing the applicant. And
Yes,
you might be able to speak to this.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I don't have too much more to add since this is the same project as the last issue 5 that we were discussing. But since we did not get that letter of support from Robbinsdale, we were not able to get the maintenance commitment either. We did include our cost participation and maintenance policy, which again is a board approved document that we view as sufficient for assigning cost and maintenance responsibilities to our city partners. And so I see the recommended motion here seems very similar to the last one, in that if we are able to provide that documentation or commitment by August 11th, we can keep this project moving forward.
All right. Is there any further discussion or questions for Emily?
Yeah, Chair, this is Michael Thompson.
Hi, Michael.
So Emily, within the week or so, if Robbinsdale says they won't do year-round maintenance or maintain, would Hennepin County then step up and do it, or would you not apply for the project? Or is that to be determined?
Yeah, Michael, that's a very good question. I don't think I'm in the position to be able to respond to that. I'd really have to discuss that with others at the county. I will note that this project is in our capital improvement program. So there has been quite a bit of planning and programming up to this date. But I can't, I guess I'm unsure where that would lead us. I'll have to talk to county leadership.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that information. And just as some background, Hennepin County is meeting with a number of its city partners on revising the cost participation policy. And so I don't know if that plays into this, but appreciate your answers, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Emily, seems like you have the lion's share of the work to do here coming out of this meeting. So is there a motion, I guess, to support the recommended motion on this slide?
Thompson would make that motion.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second?
Lissa will second.
Thank you, Lissa. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask that Robbie call the roll. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Enough County OJ.
Aye.
Carver County Fellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Chapik.
He's gone. He said he's left the meeting.
Yes.
Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye. Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Lightner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Eden Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Fridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Omi.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Urban Transit Fighton.
Aye.
And Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tech.
Aye.
And State Aid Brown.
Aye.
Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Tab Coordinator Kotsukos. Chair, the motion at 19 ayes.
Thank you. All right. Bethany, we'll move on to I think the last item here.
Issue number 7, Chair, is our last motion. So we have a qualifying requirement, again, number 9, about letters of support. Since posting, Carver County was able to provide their letter and is now qualified. That is project 05389, their River Bluffs Regional Trail. We still have one remaining project that is the Dakota County Vermilion Highlands Greenway 04910. That project is on land owned by our Environmental Services Division. And our Regional Parks and Trails Department is also working on this project with Dakota County and Environmental Services to work towards a solution on that. Knowing that, we are recommending that this project be qualified pending a submittal of letters of support from our Environmental Services Division.
Okay, thanks.
I do
Thanks,
believe
Bethany.
the applicant is here as well. Thank you, Chair.
One question that I had, Bethany, and maybe the applicant can answer this. I would presume that there's an easement that'll be required from Met Council Environmental Services, and then, like, is that part of the project development timeline? You know, post scoring, and award of funding. I mean, is that a right of way activity? I guess.
Thank you, Chair. I do see that Tony has his hand up, so I will let him answer the progress that they're making with ES.
Thanks. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I can speak a little bit to the history of our coordination with Met Council staff. It actually goes back years. probably back to the early 2000 or 2020 area. Recently, we've been working with Met Council staff for about the last 6 to 9 months on really in alignment through the Met Council property. To your point about an easement, we're working on that now. We're actually in the process of coordinating with real estate staff from Met Council. Sounds like there was a little bit of a change in staffing, so there's been a slight delay there, but we do have an alignment that's been kind of approved in terms of just location. We're trying to identify what that easement distance would be to make sure that we maximize construction and maintenance ability of the greenway, but also limit any sort of additional easement needs on Met Council property that has future development needs too. So,
all right,
that help answer the question.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments on the project or the request here? Go ahead, Elaine.
Just wanted to add, as we mentioned, we've been working with several of the different staff in our departments, the council departments with the trails and then our real estate and then our environmental services. And we did get an email this morning from our environmental services, the plant engineering team. It said that they continue to have concerns with the project and have a meeting with the real estate team in late July to discuss it. But also said, given these concerns, environmental services cannot issue a letter of support until the project team addresses them. And they encourage the project team to continue to work with the plant engineering team. And then if the concerns are addressed, they can revisit a letter of support.
All right. Tony.
And I'm happy to speak to that as well. We have had multiple meetings this year related to that. Part of that, I think, concern was related to potential contamination on site. Our staff's actually looking to do some borings to help identify that, as well as identify what the right solution for construction is. We had some correspondence just within the last couple of weeks related to that too. So just to let the committee know that those conversations are ongoing with that staff as well as Emmett. So.
Thank you. So let's go back to the.
I was going to add our parks was in support of the project. It was our plant engineering team that was not, so you got about halfway through.
Okay. Go ahead, Russ.
Mr. Chair, I move the recommended motion.
Thank you, Russ. Is there a second?
Second. Steve Peterson.
Steve, thank you. Is there any further discussion on this one? All right, none apparent. I'll ask Robbie to call the roll.
Sure. Anoka County OJ.
Aye.
Carver County Sellner.
Aye.
Dakota County Tabak. All right, that's right. I remember. Hennepin County Buell.
Aye.
Ramsey County Leesman.
Aye.
Scott County Rudolph.
Aye.
Washington County Lightner.
Aye.
Egan Mathis.
Aye.
Prairie Ellis.
Aye.
Fridley Kozlucher.
Aye.
Lakeville Homie.
Aye.
Minneapolis White.
Aye.
Plymouth Thompson.
Aye.
St. Paul Weber.
Aye.
Suburban Transit Fighting.
Aye.
And Bike Ped Joshi.
Aye.
And Metro District Tag.
Aye.
And State Aid Brown.
Aye.
Council MTS Peterson.
Aye.
Coordinator Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair of the motion at 19 ayes.
Thank you. Bethany, anything else from you?
I will just say quickly that we did have issue 8 and completing the ADA plan requirements. Since posting, both projects did submit their ADA plan, and therefore we have no motion to clear out this, which does complete our action transmittal 2026-36. And that is all we have for
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. And can we just have the minutes reflect the, that the ADA transition plan elements on item 8 were accepted prior to the meeting, and then on item 7, the Carver County project was also approved prior to our meeting today. Go ahead, Elaine.
I just want to make a comment that all projects that were not disqualified have made it through the qualifying review, and we will let the applicants know in an email tomorrow.
Perfect. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I do want to thank a lot of my colleagues here. We had probably about a dozen people working on this qualification review, and less than a month over 4th of July here. I think next year we're going to take 2 months to do it, not 1. But under Bethany's leadership, they did really a great job on this. But maybe I was going to try and maybe summarize what I heard in all the motions today. And I think the only projects that actually got disqualified outright were inactive transportation, the Orono project, and then the functional class related ones, that being 2 in Ham Lake and 1 in St. Louis Park. I think those were the only 1, 2, 3, 4 projects that got completely disqualified. A few others got qualified or need they'll continue to scoring, but need to supply some additional information. But I think that's more of a manageable number than maybe we started today with. So that's, I think, a good sign for all the applicants that ended up worked through a few issues, and I think we got there and for the most part. So thanks, everyone.
And Steve, I would say that, maybe that's a little bit more of an artifact than the subsequent cycle will be, just from the standpoint of having, materials a little bit tighter, having the flux system kind of under wraps as far as, qualification, and can an application be made that could be disqualified or not qualifying. Anthony, go ahead.
Just a general item for the entire group for consideration. Not that it has to be voted on, or it should have been a motion earlier, but would it be possible for this group to consider an in-person meeting at some point to enhance collaboration and new connections, especially for the new faces on the scene?
It's a great question. We haven't talked about that in some time. I do believe that Robbie and Steve may know of a future time we have discussed, once scoring gets underway, that it's probable that we'll be meeting in person. So yeah, good suggestion. Thanks, Anthony. We've kind of forget us, that have been on here a little bit, kind of know each other a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think it'd be great. Let's see, I think the next item, I think we're complete with the 26-36. Let's see. And the next item is, shucks, I gotta get way out to the top. I think Tony is going to give or facilitate a presentation on electric vehicle city support. Thanks, Tony, for sticking around through all that. And maybe he didn't. Go ahead, Robbie.
Thank you, Chair. We don't usually go all the way through funding and programming. The calendar invite I send is for 2 hours from 1 to 3 p.m. Bylaws does not have a time specified for funding and programming. So I was just talking with Tony. I think he's okay to present at the next funding and programming so that everyone can be a bit fresher for a presentation.
Perfect. All right, that's a good thought. So with that, I think that might complete our agenda. Other business, if there's any other business that anybody would like to bring forward. If not, I'll ask for an adjournment, and hopefully everybody can get out and enjoy some of this nicer weather.
I need a motion. Elaine will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank
I'll
you.
never second.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.